big news in the football world yesterday was that Ohio State has a couple new assistant coaches, I should say. Chris Ash is one of them. He comes not only from Wisconsin previously, but directly from Arkansas. And Larry Johnson leaves Penn State after decades there to be an important recruiter and important D-line coach with the Buckeyes. And of course, all this stems from the fact that there's a new head coach at Penn State in James Franklin. We bring back both of the guys now for this segment. And this kind of got us thinking about the fact that college coaches leave. It happens. You go to a better school or you go to a better job, you head off to the NFL, etc. It's tougher for the players to leave. If they want to transfer, they have to sit out. What are your guys' thoughts as former athletes about that?
Well, and I think this is something that affects both basketball and football.
For sure.
Now, when you go to a program, I want to dispel this myth right now. It used to be you went to Ohio State, you went to Penn State, you went to Michigan to play for the Wolverines. Now players are a lot more savvy coming out of high school, and they're going to play for a coach that fits them, that runs an offensive or a defensive system that they can thrive in. And so whenever you have a coaching change, that can affect a player on a negative way or even on a positive way. So I think players ought to have a window to make a choice. I can give you a couple examples of that. A few years ago at Michigan, when they brought in Coach Rodriguez, well, they had Mallet, a quarterback. He was a traditional drop-back passer. He didn't fit in that spread set, so he went on to Arkansas. And you can look at Wisconsin this past year. They bring in a new football coach, and they bring in a 3-4 defense. Well, if you're a defensive lineman that's used to playing the 3 technique, used to getting one-on-one every now and then, now you're playing the nose, a completely different animal. Your responsibility is different. You might not fit that system. So I think players ought to have an option when a coach leaves to go to another program or to the NFL to choose if they want to stay. Players only get 5 years to play for. That's a short window. Coaches can coach forever. And I think that's a change we need to see.
You know, you mentioned a great point in terms of, I was thinking back to when I was being recruited. I went to the school because my dad always told me that the coach can leave at any time, but you're going to have an education for the rest of your life. And so that was before I was thinking that I could play professionally. I just was happy to be playing college basketball. But you make a great point that the young players are much more savvy. There's 500 channels out here now. There's networks like BTN for every kid in the country to watch the Big Ten. And so I agree with you on that. There needs to be a window of opportunity for student athletes to look and say, okay, whether it's a month, whether it's 6 weeks, they get a chance to interview the guy coming in. And they get a chance to see if there's some rapport. What's your system? What's it going to be like? Come to me up front and let me know, do I need to stay? Do I have an opportunity? Or do I need to go on? And it also works for guys who could be in the doghouse, like we talked about before, Stan, right, in terms of, you know, I wasn't able to play in this system. You didn't like me, but a new coach comes in, he sees something different. So I like that period of time to give student athletes a chance to offset the freedom that coaches are enjoying.
You mentioned the shift from when you were playing, you went to the school, and now I think you're right, most players go for a coach. When did that happen? Why did that transfer? I mean, that's one of the arguments whenever I talk with people about paying athletes or whatever, the argument of like, oh, don't give me that garbage about a free education.
Right.
Like, there was a point when that really mattered. And when you looked at the fact that an NFL player's average career is 3 years, and you're 25 years old, and it's great to have a free education there to fall back on, how come that doesn't seem to be that important anymore?
I think because money is so important at the intercollegiate level, and that we won't see a Bo Schembechler, we won't see a Woody Hayes, we won't see coaches anymore in college sports at any level, at any sport, in my estimation, that will be there over 20, 25 years. It doesn't happen anymore. Tom Izzo is the closest thing that we have to that right now in the Big Ten Conference. And so with the change, with the administration, with the alums being so impatient now, change occurs. And so when change occurs, young people watch this and they know that their window is very small. They understand. They've been able to watch Jabari Parkers. They've been able to watch the linebacker from Michigan State that got in trouble, that didn't get to go. Max Bulla. They see these type of things. And so they're much more attuned to what's going on. I think that's why they're not youngsters looking at Ohio State. I want to go to Ohio State because I'm an Ohio State resident, and I grew up all my life looking at that. Mm-hmm. That goes to the wayside as to what's the best opportunity for me.
Well, if we're going to look at this realistically and be honest about most college athletes, I mean, the first thought is I want to play professionally. So right. I'm going to go to a program that's going to make that easier for me, a high-profile program. Because you can get education anywhere, whether it's Ohio State, Michigan, or Indiana. You can get an education. But a coach can affect how well you perform if the system doesn't fit you. And I think players, because your window is so short, want to be with coaches that fit their need. You look at Penn State and Bill O'Brien, perfect for Christian Hackenberg, the way he's thrived under there. Now, that may change for him. We don't know that. But it may change. So I think players are taking a closer look at not just the university for their education, but also who the coach is.
Right.
Because college football is a big deal now. It's not like, even when I came out, I went to Ohio State. I didn't go to play for John Cooper. It was great he was there, but Ohio State, the big stadium, the big fans, the tradition, I went there for that. And now I think I would look at the situation that would suit me better. Which coach is running a system that suits me? I'm still going to get my education, but I want that great opportunity to see if I'm good enough to play at the next level. And that's what players are looking for.
It'd be interesting to see what has to happen for the NCAA, whoever, to say we're going to make changes to this transfer rule. And if players do want out, what can they do to make the process a little more positive for them?